This podcast is brought to you by Most Valuable Podcasts, leading the league in podcasting entertainment.
What's up? Real MVPs, Ricky Widmer here, and welcome into episode. We said we're gonna do this differently than what we're doing now, and we're changing on the fly. Welcome into episode 6, the second special episode of the Draft Room in its first 10 episodes. How lucky are you? Welcome in. My name's Ricky Widmer. For those of you who don't know, I am joined by my beautiful co-host, JD.
Hello, how's it going?
I forgot to ask you this when we first started. Maybe I did and I'm forgetting. Do you prefer me? So I use first and last name. Obviously, like yours is just your initials.
Yeah.
Do you prefer just JD or JD and then your last name? Or is it too redundant?
No, it's too redundant because it'd be JDD.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Like I was like, it feels weird because I've had Dave Oster, Brandon Swanson, Mark Weber, Sean Anderson, Jake Neverman, JD.
Yeah,
just JD. That's what it is.
An old JD.
But we are here today to recap the entire 2013 NFL Draft. It was a great season. It was a great month of the Draft Room NFL style until we got to the draft. And then some teams reached, some teams didn't have to reach, some teams traded up, some teams traded down. But what we're going to do today is we're going to go through each and every team and kind of give our thoughts, give our grades for each one, and then kind of wrap it up at the end with maybe at the very end, we'll do something where it's like, okay, JD, give me your absolute winner, absolute loser. Who knows? We may do that at the end. But before we get into everything, make sure if you want to support us, check out our Patreon page down below in the description. I almost said comment section, in the description. And also go ahead and check out that Discord link if you would like to join the Discord to stay tuned to all the conversations happening between us and everyone and part of the Real MVPs. I don't know why I messed up there. Maybe because I'm kind of slopping through this intro. But JD, how we're going to do it to set the rules. We're going to start with the NFC. We're going to do it by division. And each team, we're going to do it in order of where they place. We'll start with number 1, go to number 4. And for some of the divisions, you'll be going first. Some of them, I'll be going first. You and I both know that. You guys will find out as we do it. But JD, we will start right away, getting right into it. Let's start with the NFC. NFC East, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Their draft is the first one we're looking at. Their picks were number 9 overall, Jalen Carter in the first round. They also got Nolan Smith at 30. They get Tyler Smith, the offensive tackle, in the 3rd. Along with Sidney Brown, safety defensive back out of Illinois. 4th round, they get Kaylee Ringo, cornerback out of Georgia. 6th round, Tanner McKee, quarterback out of Stanford. And in the 7th round, they get Moro Ajomo, the offensive tackle out of Texas. JD, I'm going to let you go first. What is your thought? And then ultimately, what is your grade for the Philadelphia Eagles?
So I'll start off by saying I loved what they did in the first first 3 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
I think getting Jalen Carter, the football player, at 9 is fantastic for a team that just made it to the Super Bowl. I say on the field because the player because we don't really know how he is off the field.
Mm-hmm.
But but a great player, arguably the best player in this class. Yes, he had a little bit of a down pro day, but his tape doesn't lie. He's an absolute freak in the run game. He's a freak when it comes to getting after the quarterback. I think that for a team that just needed like more talent, unreal. Now with Nolan Smith at pick number 30, again, that's an upside pick.
Mm-hmm.
Now right now, like we were talking about during the draft stream, I think he has potential to be a fantastic pass rusher. He's a little smaller than you would like, but get him in an NFL weight room, and that'll only help him. Now, he I don't absolutely love him as a prospect, like, which is, I mean, clearly, which is why he ended up going 30. But
Mhm.
I mean, I think if you're betting on upside, then, and let's say he hits, well then you just got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith with your first two picks, and
Yeah.
that's something you can build a defense around.
Yeah.
And I think they need a depth on the offensive line. So getting Tyler Steen out of Alabama, I mean, I didn't watch too much tape of him, but from what I have seen, I mean, he's a big dude. Um, I mean, he's a pretty good run blocker from what I saw. And at worst, I think he can just be a solid swing tackle for you. Like, I think he has a pretty high floor. And yeah, I mean, I think they did a great job. Like, Sidney Brown, again, I absolutely loved him. He was somebody I actually wanted the Bengals to take a swing at.
Not only because you needed a safety, but because,
No.
Illinois player, Canadian born player.
Yeah, well, actually, I didn't know he was Canadian born until like yesterday.
Really?
But yeah, no, I
Okay.
didn't know that. But I mean, exactly. We needed a safety. I think I might have said this on one of our previous episodes, but whenever I watched Kirby Joseph, yeah, it's Kirby Joseph, right? The one that went to the Lions
Let me
from
look
last
that up.
year. From last year.
Yeah, let me look it up for you. Keep going.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's Kirby Joseph, but whenever I was watching him, I noticed Sidney Brown pop on film as well.
Yes,
And I'm
Lions,
like, man,
Kirby Joseph, you are correct.
yeah. Yeah, so I noticed him popping out on film as well. And I'm like, man, this guy is going to be a player. I thought, like, just with how he plays that center field type of position. I think he has good ball skills. He's always in the right spot. He's not afraid to tackle. So I personally thought when I watched him that he could rise up to be an early second rounder to late first. That ultimately didn't happen. But I think that, like, your first 3 rounds were absolutely stellar. So, and then even getting Keely Ringo from Georgia, I mean, clearly it came out like after his pro day that his hip movement wasn't great. It was kind of hidden on film, because if you watch his film, I mean, or his 2021 film at least, fantastic. Like, thought of as a top 5 corner in the draft.
Was a first round pick for a long time during this process.
Yeah, but then his pro day and the combine didn't go too well, so that ultimately caused him to fall. And then Tanner McKee, I liked him more. I thought he was more of a 4th or 5th round pick, or sorry, a 3rd or 4th round pick. But I mean, that's just good quarterback depth, because God forbid Jalen
Hurts goes down. Do they still have Garner Minshew on the team? He was their backup, right?
I don't think so. I think he's a Colt.
Oh, that's right. They got Marcus Mariota as their backup now.
Yeah. So honestly, if I have to give them a grade, I would say they got a solid A. A solid A.
Really, just an A? Just an A?
Yeah.
Now,
I mean,
I'm going to ask you. Now we haven't talked about this. Are you a guy that's just A, B, C, or D? Or are you A plus, A minus?
I'm an A plus kind of guy.
Okay.
But my reasoning for not giving them that full A plus, I personally, like I was saying, I'm a little bit lower on Nolan Smith than most. So I personally I had like a mid to late second round grade on him. So that and then I think with Tyler Steen, I think you could have maybe. I don't think he would have been a 3rd rounder. I think you could have got him in the 4th.
Yeah,
but I don't hate it because they're good players. But I just think you reached a little bit for them.
See, and with me, I'll start with my grade and then tell you why. A plus across the board. The first reason why is you look at the needs that this team has. Edge rusher, cornerback, D-line, running back, safety, offensive tackle. Those were their top needs heading into the draft. They hit edge. They got, like, all the guys that they got in these situations. This kind of goes into point 2 also. I don't think they reached. Like, to me, Tyler Steen, I had mocked in my 3-round mock draft. So for me, he was a 3rd round talent. So, like, you get early on the best defensive tackle, and I'm high on Nolan Smith. I thought he could have gone as high as like 15, maybe 12, depending on who was taking them. I really like most of the edge rushers in the first round, except unless your name was like Miles Murphy. I liked you. Miles Murphy, I think he needs to improve a little bit and needs to develop. You give a smile because I've ragged on Miles Murphy the entire, like, ever since I watched his film, I've just ragged on Miles Murphy, but he has the potential. He's just not good right now. And that the Eagles are a Super Bowl team. They need guys to compete now. So you get the best defensive tackle, you get the best edge pass, well, not the best, but you get a top edge rusher at 31. No, 30. Should have been 31. Tyler Steen's a good pick. Sidney Brown, obviously love him. Illinois guy. Ringo, like, yes, he fell, but if it wasn't for what you said, pro day, hip movement, this is a guy that had first, second round grades, depending on who it was earlier in the draft process, to where I just look at this and I go, this is a team that got quality needs and have guys that can compete now for them, because that's exactly what they need. They need guys that are going to compete now, help them now, and most of them on the defensive side, because guess what? Their defense is where they need to help, either if it's with replacing guys or going in there and saying, hey, we got to add some depth because there could be guys leaving in the near future. I will ask you this. Do you put the DeAndre Swift move, is that separate from the draft, or is that considered as well? Because that would have hit a need too.
I keep that separate.
I was keeping that separate also. I just wanted to, some people say, hey, it was a draft day move, so you put it in there. I keep it to just the picks that they had. But moving on, JD, the Dallas Cowboys. Their picks were Mozzie Smith, 26th overall. Then second round pick, they took Luke Schoonmaker, tight end out of Michigan. In the third round, took DeMarvion Overshone, linebacker from Texas. Fourth round, they take Villami Fehoko Jr., a defensive end, San Jose State. Fifth round, they get Richards, the offensive tackle out of UNC. In the sixth round, they get two picks, Eric Scott Jr., cornerback from Southern Mississippi, Deuce Vaughn, running back from KSU. And in the seventh round, they get Jalen Brooks, the wide receiver out of South Carolina. Yet again, we're staying in the East, so we'll start with you. What is your grade, and what do you think of the Cowboys draft?
So I like what they did. I don't love it, which you'll see by the grade. I think getting Mozzie Smith is good for them. They need help in the trenches on the defensive side, and I think he's going to be instantly a guy who I would say he's going to start off as a rotational piece for them. But I think he has to develop as a pass rusher. Again, I seen him more of a nose tackle, so he's going to help their run game right away on running downs. But I think whenever I watched him, because I started watching a bit of him towards the end of the draft process. Whenever I was watching him, he was getting off the field like a little too early. He kind of had that Jordan Davis kind of feel for last year. Not nearly as bad. Like, he was playing over 50% of the snaps, but I saw him getting gassed a little too quickly, so he's gonna have to work on that conditioning. Luke Schoonmaker, I think they reached on him. They got him in the second round. I thought he was more of a fourth rounder.
Did they reach, because you got to mention here with the Cowboys, the Bills did move up ahead of them. Apparently Dalton Kincaid was number one on the Cowboys big board. Was that a reactionary move of like, well, we can't lose out on one of these tight ends. We already lost out on Kincaid. Just take Schoonmaker here.
Well, I think that's exactly what it was, but I also think there were better tight ends on the board when they got him. Yeah. Like, I mean, I know teams are afraid of Darnell Washington's injuries, which is why he fell, but you could have taken a swing there. I even like Zach Kuntz, who I want to say was a 6th or 7th round pick. I liked him better just based off his physical traits, which I know is crazy. Yeah. But I like Schoonmaker, but I think they reached a little bit for him. And my favorite pick for them, honestly, was Deuce Vaughn, their 6th round pick.
Did you see and I didn't know this. Did you see how he found out he was going to be a Cowboy?
No, I did.
So his dad works for the team, like in the scouting. And when they called, like the dad called from one of the the phone that they were going to use to call him from. And it's just like a video. He's like, hey man, like just wanted to give you a call. Sorry, my phone's dead. And he just goes, how'd you like to come to work with me? And it's like his dad getting to announce to him, hey, you're getting picked by the Dallas Cowboys. Like, I didn't know that. I didn't know his dad worked for the Cowboys, or else I would have mocked him to the Cowboys. But like, that was pretty cool. Dad's on the staff, and I believe his dad's either a coach or in the scouting department. And he got to call his son and say, hey, you're getting drafted by the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. But again, why he fell is because he's so small.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but again, kind of like what I was saying with Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, I think the second best pass catcher is Deuce Vaughn.
Mm-hmm.
He has great hands. You can start him in the slot, or put him in the slot, and he'll make guys miss, and he's super fast. I love him. He has the ability to make guys miss.
Mm-hmm.
So, and their other pieces, like they're fine. I didn't like Jalen Brooks, their 7th rounder. I think that was another good pick. Like, I think it's pretty good value from a guy from South Carolina. He's a project, obviously, which is why he's 7th round pick. But I'd give them a solid C+. They didn't blow me away.
I'm gonna agree with you. C+. And the reason why is, like, I look at their draft and I go, okay, tight end in the 2nd round, that's a need. I do agree with you, though. There were tight ends, Musgrave, Washington, to name 2 of them, that I had above Schoonmaker. However, yet again, this is another thing that I do want to throw out there. Everybody's boards are different. Like, the GMs have their own boards. I have my own board. You have your own board. The fan base has their own boards. We're never going to know who is right, but we're having a conversation here. And for me, with the part that I'm saying is I agree with you. Schoonmaker, he was lower on my board. It was a reach. If he pans out, it's a great pick for them. Just like Mozzie Smith. I felt like that was like both of their first picks, I think, were reactionary like reaches to where the Bills jumped ahead of the Cowboys. They weren't expecting that to happen. The Cowboys also, my biggest thing that I have against them, and this kind of plays into the C+ grade as well, is I had mocked in every single mock that I had done, JD, that the Cowboys were going to move up. I thought it was going to be for Bijan Robinson. But like, I look at this and I go, the Cowboys, unless they had intel, or unless they just didn't want to trade up at all, how do you look at Dalton Kincaid, say that's our guy, and try to not jump ahead of the Chargers unless they got intel that the Chargers were going to go wide receiver? Or how do you not try to either trade with the Jaguars or try to jump ahead the Jaguars? Because Jaguars are also a team that could have gone corner or could have gone tight end. So it's like, if you really wanted Dalton Kincaid, there's a part of me that's like, I don't think he was going to fall to you anyways. So you should have moved up for him. I know hindsight's 2020, but that also comes into me as well. It's like, was Dallas not as aggressive as they should have been in order to trade up? So that's why I agree with you. Go ahead, give them a C+. Not the worst draft, but could have definitely been better. Moving on, the New York Giants, they got Deonta Banks in the 1st round. They've got John Michael Schmitz, center, in the 2nd round. Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver, in the 3rd round. Eric Gray, running back, in the 5th. In the 6th, they got Trey Hawkins, the 3rd, cornerback. And in the 7th, Jordan Riley at the defensive tackle position. And then they also have got Javarius Owens in the second round as well. JD, what's your grade and thoughts for the G-men?
So I'm gonna say they got a solid A plus. Honestly, I think they had one of the better drafts. I love we've talked about when we talked about the cornerbacks. I do really like Deontay Banks. I think getting him at 24 was good value because we've talked about. We'll talk about him later, but Christian Gonzalez I thought was gonna be the top corner, so I thought the corners were gonna go a lot earlier. But so I think getting Deontay Banks at 24 is fantastic value. The Giants come in with a big need at cornerback, so they think they can start Deontay Banks day one and have him be an impact player. John Michael Schmaltz.
Schmitz. That's what I've been saying. Schmitz.
Okay, Schmitz. By a lot of people, including myself, he is the number one center on the in the draft. So getting him in the second round, I think, is great as well. I think he went where he should have. He comes in. I think he can challenge for a starting job. I don't know if he'll necessarily win it out of camp, but I think he has a good shot at it. And then my favorite pick, Jalen Hyatt in the third round. Like you and I talked about in our last draft room podcast before the actual draft, I thought he could have possibly snuck in to be a first rounder. So getting him in the third round is great. And again, they got another need there. They needed wide receiver help, and I think I'm not saying this for sure, but I think there's a solid chance that Hyatt becomes the best receiver in this class. So I love it.
I'm gonna say I hope you're. Half of me hopes you're right. The other half hopes you're wrong, because I hope that Jordan Addison is the best wide receiver from this class for personal reasons, not any in particular, JD, of why Jordan Addison may be the best. But what grade did you give again?
I give him an A plus, and because I just wanted to touch on one last thing.
Go ahead.
And getting Eric Gray in the fifth round is great. I thought he would have been gone middle of the third to late third. So getting him in the fifth is unreal value. He'll just add depth whenever Saquon needs a break. Throw Gray in there, and I think he'll be an instant impact guy. Throw him in there at the goal line. So
I'm gonna go similarly but different. I'm gonna go B plus. I feel like, and this is me right now kind of thinking about, because I don't want to I'm always the guy, I don't want to oversaturate like A pluses and stuff. Because if you give too many A's, then what do they really mean? You know what I'm saying? So like I look at it and it's like, okay, if the Eagles were A plus, was this anywhere close to the Eagles? No. However, it's a really solid draft. Like, just even, I know that an entire draft is an entire draft, but like, even if you just said their first three picks were all they got, they to me got guys at each of those picks. Like, here's the thing that I think a lot of people don't, that we're going to talk about later, but in this draft, people have forgotten about because of how mid the overall draft has been. Yes, you can have your own board, but players have value and picks have value. And if I take somebody with a first round pick that doesn't have that first round value, it's a reach. That's what we call a reach. That's why we say, oh, you could have gotten that later. Now, I will say it will be interesting as time goes on. If we probably hear like, in the first round, a lot of teams didn't want to trade up and teams might have felt like we had to pick there. That is a unique situation. Because if you don't find the trade partner, you can't trade out of a pick. But like looking at the Giants, Banks fits a need. He was probably the best need right there. John Michael Schmitz is another one. And then Jalen Hyatt, I think, is a steal in the third. I had them in my 3-round mock, JD, trading up in the second in order. I think the trade I had was them and Carolina to trade up and get Jalen Hyatt, because I didn't think Jalen Hyatt was going to get to the middle of the second round. I didn't think he was going to get that far. This is a kid that, like, some people may say, oh, well, the Giants have a loaded wide receiver room, but they still don't have a number one wide receiver. And Jalen Hyatt can be that guy. I absolutely loved him at Tennessee. You guys have heard me harp about him all draft process. I love this kid. I almost want to get a Giants jersey because of that, but I just bought a Will Levis jersey, so I'm going to have to save up. Yeah, it's on the way. The Will Levis jersey is on the way. I ordered it that day.
Dang, okay.
I already told you guys I was going to get it.
You told me, but you didn't tell me when you bought it.
I just did it. I went ahead and I did it. It is on the way. It is in the mail. The Will Levis Express is heading to Tennessee. Can't wait for that train to start. CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, we get to see it twice a year. Can't wait. But just on those 3 picks alone, I think they're solid, and that's why it's a B+ to me. You might look at it and, like, the normal person might, like, not bat an eye and say, oh, that's a good draft. No. This is a really solid draft, and if you're a Giants fan, you should be excited about that. Last team in the NFC East, the Washington Commanders. In the first round, they get Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback out of Mississippi State. In the second, they get Jartavius Martin, cornerback out of Illinois. Third round, they get Ricky Stromberg, center out of Arkansas. Fourth round, Braden Daniels, guard out of Utah. Fifth round, KJ Henry, edge rusher out of Clemson. And then with their 6th round pick, Chris Rodriguez Jr., running back, Kentucky. And in the 7th, Andre Jones Jr., edge rusher, Louisiana. JD, thoughts and grades on the Washington Commanders?
So, if you've listened, you've heard me gush about him. I love Emmanuel Forbes.
Okay.
I think I love his production. I love his size, I should say his height now, or his arm length. I think it's ideal for the corner position. Don't love his weight, but tape doesn't lie. I think he will come in, and I think he'd be better off coming in, not being a starter right away, because I think he should gain some of that weight and come in periodically to get that experience. I loved the Braden Daniels, the tackle from Utah. I love that. I think, again, I think he could honestly be a starter for you right away. Maybe not right away. Like, I think he can put up a fight in camp, and he can potentially be a starter because I don't think their tackles are particularly good. And then my favorite pick by them is KJ Henry. The tackle, the edge from Clemson. When I watched Myles Murphy tape, I saw KJ Henry out there because he was on the opposite side. Now, the thing is, I found KJ Henry kind of benefiting from the double teams that Myles Murphy was getting. So it's kind of tough to say if how he's actually going to do in the NFL. But I mean, especially with the rumors of them potentially trying to get rid of Chase Young. So if he's forced to be that one guy, I'm not sure how he will do. But I think, again, like you said, you didn't see much from Myles Murphy, but with KJ Henry, I don't know if you watched much of him, but I think he has an unreal motor. Like, that guy just doesn't stop.
I think he's the one that, because there was somebody, I don't think it was Henry, I think it was somebody else, because I remember talking to you about, I messaged you immediately after I had watched Myles Murphy film, and I told you that there was another player. I think he's still there.
I think he was an underclassman.
I think he's an underclassman. I'm trying to think who it was. It might have been, oh shoot, who was it? I don't know if it was Jeremiah Trotter. It was basically one of their other players. It might have been KJ Henry, and maybe I was just misremembering. But I remember having to go back and stop, back, because I started watching the other guy, the guy that was actually getting to the ball, getting to the quarterback. But yeah, it could have been KJ Henry. I just don't remember.
Yeah, and then an interesting pick for me, I'm not really sure how I feel, is the Chris Rodriguez pick, the 6th round pick.
I love Chris Rodriguez.
Well, that's the thing. If you burn this past season,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean, he could have been an early second round pick.
Yeah.
But I want to say, well, I know he had a suspension, and I
Mhm.
think he got injured this year. Like,
Mhm.
not for the whole year, but I know he missed time. And even when he was on the field, he wasn't the Chris Rodriguez of last,
Yeah.
or I guess 2 years ago now. Or so
I just think
again,
Kentucky had a down year, man.
yeah. So I think that's another upside pick, which I like. That's what you try to aim for in the later
Mhm.
rounds, depth and try and hit some home runs.
Yeah.
But I think that's an interesting pick. So that being said, I'd probably give them a solid C. Nothing crazy. I think that an average class this year. I like some things that they did. They did some things that aren't really worth noting, in my opinion. But
I'm going to go similar, but slightly more negative than you. I'm going to say C. Oh, no, it's not a D plus. I'm going to go C minus.
yeah, I was
And-
thinking about giving them a D plus, but I'm like, man, some of the players that they got, I
Well-
really like the potential of them.
So I like some of the players they got. KJ Henry has potential. Chris Rodriguez Jr. has potential. The thing that one of the things I do like is cornerback was a need. Like two of their biggest needs in the first round to me were cornerback and tackle. And they went ahead and said, you know what? We're just going to double up on cornerback. And to me, it makes sense in a way because you don't have a quarterback worth protecting. So focus on that later. Worry about your defense right now. That's another thing. They didn't go quarterback at all. They didn't get a quarterback. So Sam Howell's the guy.
Looks like that fan was right. That Commanders fan.
Yeah, it's going to be a long year for the Commanders. That's what I'm going to say. It's going to be a long year. Unless they're trying to suck for Caleb Williams. Then I can get behind it. If you're trying to get that number one pick next year, then it's big brain Ron Rivera. Let's go. But there's one thing I think they absolutely could have gotten this year because of how deep the class was in this position that I kind of hate that they didn't. Tight end. This was a team that I thought in the second, more so third and fourth, but at least in the second and third, needed to attack the tight end position. And the fact that they didn't and they're going to march out with Bates and Thomas again next year makes me go, I guess it makes sense. If you don't have a quarterback to throw him the ball, what's the point of having him? But to me, I thought tight end was definitely one of those guys that was in the top. Not a Kincaid, not a Michael Mayer, but like I thought like a Schoonmaker, a Musgrave, one of those guys, even a Kraft should have been a commander. Maybe even the Laporta could have been a commander and they weren't. So that's why I'm gonna say C minus because of you. The guys that they got have potential. However, you know, I think they could have went other ways. Yeah, they could have just went other ways too with what they picked. Let's move on. Going to the North now. We're going to go to the next division. These teams, JDI will be the one to go first. We'll switch off. And we get to start with the best team from the North, the Kings of the North. Not saying much. We just... it's going to be nice wearing that crown for a couple more years now that Aaron Rodgers is in New York. Bye, Aaron. I hope you have a great time in New York. Have fun with Josh Allen. But the Kings of the North are now here. Vikings, they get in the first round, Jordan Addison, wide receiver. Third round, they get Mekhi Blackman, cornerback out of USC, his teammate. Fourth round, they get Jay Ward, another cornerback. Fifth round, they get Jacqueline Roy and Jaron Hall, defensive tackle, quarterback. And then the seventh, they get Dwayne McBride, running back from UAB. You know, so I'm a Viking fan for those of you who don't know. And this is one, is it an A? Not really. It's not an A. Am I super in love with the draft? No. But is it the worst? So here's my thought with this. I almost want to say, Do you want my homer opinion or my actual opinion, JD?
Nah, give me your honest one, man.
My honest opinion is maybe a C minus. And like, so the reason why I say that is we needed a lot, but there's one thing that hindered us. Trading for TJ Hawkinson. That hindered us. We didn't have a second round pick. And like, in the first round, Jordan Addison wouldn't have been the guy that I thought of. I thought we were going to go wide receiver, but then when Will Levis was there, I'm like, oh my God, take Will Levis. Now I'm hearing, by the way, JD and Viking fans, some of you are going to take this out of proportion, but there's a little seriousness to this. I almost want to fire my GM right away because he said he's entertaining the idea of bringing Kirk Cousins back. Like, I almost want to like roll like spray bottle and go, no, we don't think about that. We don't think about bringing Kirk Cousins back. We let him leave. We draft somebody. We let him leave. That's why to me, okay, I'm going to go C minus. There's some guys here that I like. I like Addison. I like Blackman. I like Jay Ward even. We hit some positions of need. However, how do you see a quarterback sitting right there in the first round and not take him? I get this is a team that is looking more playoff and that quarterback is like, Kirk Cousins is not the answer. This was a perfect situation. Cool. We get a top 10 quarterback at 23, even a top 5 quarterback at 23, and we can let him sit the whole season. There were wide receivers, like if the Vikings would have taken Will Levis and then targeted Jalen Hyatt, I'd be like A+. A+ all around. This was perfect. But like, I get why we went with Addison. I think he's going to be well or do good along with Justin Jefferson on the other side. I do like the 2 corners we got. I feel like I'm scared at the direction of this team because I'm scared I'm going to have to be watching Kirk Cousins for more than just this year.
Yeah, like I didn't know that was the case. I mean, you kind of figure. The first thing that came to my mind when you guys passed up on Levis in the first round was, okay, yes, you're in win now mode. You don't want to roll the dice with a rookie quarterback going forward. Now, you might want to cover your ears for what I'm about to say because
you're going to say D-, aren't you?
I was just going to say a D.
Okay.
I think I really didn't like this draft for you guys. My favorite pick was the Jordan Addison because when we said it, I'm like, okay, that makes sense. It's a good pick. I mean, maybe I would have gone quarterback, but I like the player. Then it was just everything else. Like Jay Ward, I think he's a good player. He was a good player for LSU. But I don't really see him being that number 1 corner. So, which I think you guys really needed a game changer back there. Besides Jordan Addison, my favorite pick was Jaron Hall. Now,
the quarterback?
The quarterback. But I actually I actually liked him.
Like Hooker would have been better.
Yeah. Like you guys hit some needs.
Bennett would have been better.
I don't know if I don't know. I like
Dude,
Jaron
I am
Hall.
so excited to see. We'll get to him with the Rams.
Yeah.
We'll get to him with the Rams. Go on, I'm cutting you off.
No, it's fine. But yeah, like then you guys got Dwayne McBride. Now I don't know much about him, but honestly, like you did need running back depth, so
yeah. Well, Dalvin Cook's always injured, so like
so that's a fine pick. I mean, even if he doesn't turn out to be much, I mean, just another body in the running back room.
I'll put it this way: this draft for the Vikings was just, except for Jordan Addison, maybe Blackman, it's a bunch of mid.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of mid.
It just describes this class because, like, I was expecting more from the Vikings. I know, like, they didn't have a 2nd round pick.
Yeah,
but
we have TJ Hawkinson, so I can't be mad about that.
No, yeah, exactly. And like again, you got some quality players, like you said, Jay Ward, but I think you could have just done more. Honestly, like you could have. If this was how you were gonna draft the rest of the draft, I think you could have gone some like a better option than Jordan Addison.
Also, I will say this before we move on to the Lions. Reading the actual full quote, because I'm like, oh, I wanted to pull it up. I literally think that my GM is brain dead or has brain damage. Here's the quote, and you tell me what problem you think I have with it. Kirk doesn't need to show anything to me. Kirk has played football at a high level before I got to Minnesota. Last year, we won 13 games. I don't know what else we need to prove, or what he would need to prove to me or anyone else.
Ruby can win.
I don't know. He's going in the playoffs, JD.
Yeah, like
that you're not going to lose to the New York Giants when we had a lead.
Yeah,
like reading that just made me so angry.
Like, I get you're not going to bash your guy.
I want to change my decision and say it's an F just because of that freaking comment. But go ahead.
Yeah, like I'm not. I know you're not going to say you're not going to trash your quarterback, especially when you didn't draft another one, really. But like
Vikings should have they should have just drafted Will Levis. They should have then targeted Jalen Hyatt. Like Jordan Addison. Oh, he's the number. Like this is a difference here. All right, I'm gonna say this. This is a difference. And Kai, I know you're watching. Love you. But this is how I almost expect someone who's a Lions fan to feel. Of like, we didn't take the best player. We could have taken someone else that helped the team better. Why did we not do that? Why did we not? I am not here to accept, oh, well, Jordan Addison, you know what? It's a C-, but like, it just infuriates me that like people fall and that should change what you're thinking. Oh, maybe we go quarterback here. Maybe we go. No, I get that Jordan Addison was their number one wide receiver on the board, but I look at it and I go, there are other good wide receivers you can sacrifice there in order to get a core. Oh my, I'm just going to, blood pressure is going to go up, JD. Let's just move on. Detroit Lions, what they got, round one, they get Jahmyr Gibbs, running back. They also get Jack Campbell, linebacker. In the second round, they get their tight end and Sam Laporta. They get Brian Branch, cornerback. They get Hendon Hooker and Broderick Martin in the third round. They get Kobe Sorsda in the fifth. And they get Antoine Green, wide receiver, in the seventh. JD, my overall thoughts on this one is, if they didn't do what they did in the first round, I would love this a lot more. Like, I look at it and I go, if you just put these if you put these names on a piece of paper and just said, this is who the Lions got, I would look at it and go, all right, that's a solid AA-. As soon as you put where they got them at and what they could have gotten, I'm going to say a B+. And the only reason why is the first round, I think you guys reached heavily. Now I'm going to say the asterisk that I've been saying the whole time. I bet you that they tried to trade back. They couldn't trade back, yada, yada, yada. But I just look at this and I go, I liked some of the guys they got. Hendon Hooker can sit the full year, doesn't have to play. They got a prime guy that can maybe take over for Goff when Goff is done. Brian Branch, getting him in the second round at 14 is a steal because he probably should have been a first rounder. Like, really, it's just, to me, the first three picks were a reach. Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell, Jahmyr Gibbs, all reaches. And you go, Laporta was not at the top of my tight end board. I had other tight ends up there. They had their prime pick. And yet again, if you're going to be someone that's like, well, I believe my GM, whatever he picks, he's the word of God, basically, then that's on you. I look at this and I go, I've watched the film. I've watched these guys just like the GMs have. Yes, everyone's opinion's different. I think they reached on their first three. Good names, good draft, B+, not enough to get an A from me.
Yeah, I'm going with a B+ as well, but I'm a little different than you. Mm-hmm. Now, like I prefaced to Lions fans, again, love Jahmyr Gibbs as a player. Love Jack Campbell as a player. Yeah, I do think they reached on both those guys. but I absolutely love what the Lions did in the middle of their draft.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Sam Laporta, I think, was a reach, but with what we saw, what happened afterwards, when Sam Laporta got off the board, like I want to say four of the. Sorry,
did it happen because of what the Lions did? Did the run of tight ends go because of what the Lions did?
I mean, it's honestly it's tough to say. It could have been, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in that case, right, they got one of the top tight ends. Now, wasn't the best tight end,
mm-hmm.
but they got one of them, right? So I'm okay. Honestly, I'm okay with that after seeing what happened. Brian Branch, like I said, I'm one of the odd ones out, but wow, sorry. Brian Branch, I like him as I like him as a player, but I didn't understand him as a first rounder because he's going to be a nickel. And I think I read somewhere, I think it was on, I want to say it was an article, one of the Detroit writers was saying that Brian Branch will probably be playing the nickel for them. So you know what? As a second rounder, I'm A-okay with that. He's going to be a great player. Hendon Hooker, I loved in the third round. Now, like I thought
I thought it should have went into the first. Should have got that 5th-year option.
Well, exactly. Well, that's what you said, and I didn't agree with that. So for me, him going in the third round, fantastic value for them.
Yeah,
fantastic. And then I liked the Antoine Green, the wide receiver out of North Carolina. I mean, in my opinion, like he was one. Yeah, I want to say he was statistically their best receiver this year, or did they have Josh Downs? I honestly can't remember, but I think they might have Josh Downs. But I think he is again great upside. Whenever I watched him, I think he's a red zone threat.
Yeah.
He needs to add to his route running tree. But again, I liked what they did besides where they got their value in their first 2 rounds.
Yeah, yet again, the Lions, we may look back at this and say, yeah, it was better than we thought. But I just look at it and I go, if you're putting them on paper, not where they were drafted, it's a great draft. Where they were drafted, that's what brings it down for me. I'm going to go with a B+. It's still a solid draft for the Lions. Then we move on, the Green Bay Packers. They get Lucas Van Ness, edge rusher, at 13. Then in the second, they get Luke Musgrave, tight end. They also get Jaden Reed, wide receiver in the second. In the third, they get Tucker Kraft. Fourth, they get Colby Wooden. Fifth, they get Sean Clifford and Dontavian Wicks. In the sixth, they get Carls Brooks, Anders Carlson. And in the seventh, they get Carrington Valentine, Lou Nichols III, Anthony Johnson Jr., and Grant DuBose. I look at this and I'm going to say the grade for me is hard because a lot of these names, especially the later ones, I go, probably not, probably won't play. There are a lot of depth guys. To me, the Sean Clifford thing is like, I guess he's going to be the backup behind Jordan Love. This is a team that I thought either was going to go, hey, let's get one of those quarterbacks, get a Hendon Hooker, or let's not. They decided not to. My biggest thing with this, and I'm going to say, I almost want to say D+ or D. I'm going to flip a coin. 1 or 0, JD?
1.
It's 1. It's a D. D is the grade I'm going to go with. And the reason why is, so Lucas Van Ness is a good pick, but to me, I think they really needed help for Jordan Love. Yes, you get Musgrave. I like Musgrave. Yes, you get Reed. Yes, they got Wicks down the edge or down the line. They also got Grant DuBose. Maybe this is something where it's like, hey, we got Watson and we got Romeo Doubs. We're just going to fill in the rest behind him. Guys are either going to step up or they're going to get out. But I look at where they were at. Jordan Addison, Quentin Johnson, even a Michael Mayer, even a Dalton Kincaid, any of those guys were probably what you should have gone for. More so, I'm thinking, or not even that, JSN. I'm completely forgetting about JSN. Like, you could have completely went for JSN there at 12 and then went for edge rusher later. I just look at this and it's just, you filled in a lot of positions with like meh, like not meh, but like there's no star power in this draft. Maybe that's just because, oh, that's just the Green Bay Packers. And it's just, that's what we are. We're the non-star power team. But like, you trade Aaron Rodgers and this is the type of, like, I thought they were going to, hey, we're going to get a wide receiver because, you know, we're going to give Jordan Love help because we never did it for Aaron. But I just was not in love with the Packers draft. So I'm going to go with a D for the Packers.
See, I'm conflicted because I want to go a D as well. But, man, they had so many dang picks. Like, that just makes me want to just, like...
They have a ton of picks, and look at how many were, like, of quality.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, I'm gonna go... I'll go D+. I want to go C- because of the quantity. And, like, I do like some of their players. But for some of the reasons, like, that you said, I mean, did they need to double up on tight end?
No.
I don't think they did, so that's kind of a waste. But even though, again, I really like Luke Musgrave, and I really like Tucker Kraft. I think that guy's going to be an absolute baller.
And like, that's the point. Instead of doubling up on wide receiver, just take JSN in the first.
You mean tight end?
No. Wide receiver. They got 2 wide receivers as well. They got Reed and DeBose.
Yeah.
So like, instead of doubling up on wide receiver, one of which is in the 7th. Like, how many 7th rounder? Like, instead of doubling up on wide receiver,
they tripled up on wide receivers.
Then whatever, tripled up. Like, just take JSN. Take JSN.
Exactly.
I don't get it.
Like, so I think I was higher on Lucas Van Ness than you were. I think. So I actually didn't mind that pick at all. I mean, I probably would have gone JSN.
Yeah.
But I think that, like I kind of joked about during the stream, I think they're going to try and win games by holding the other team to 10 or fewer points. I think that's their goal here. And but getting Luke Musgrave, I like that pick. Getting Jaden Reed, I also like that pick. I think he's pretty underrated. So getting him in the 3rd round I think that's fair value for him.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, but then that's kind of where the draft falls off the board for me. I'm looking at it now. Like, I mean, Sean Clifford from Penn State, the quarterback. I mean, that's just a roll of the dice. Like, I guess I'm okay with that. I guess he could be a backup if anything. You're taking a kicker in the 6th round. I don't hate that. I don't really have many thoughts on it. And then you got and then I liked, I guess, the Carl Brooks pick from Bowling Green. I mean, I watched some film of him, and he's just dominating at a small school. So, I mean, I mean, I guess if you want to bank on being able to develop him more against better opposition, but I don't think there's much to it. I think it's just a bunch of quantity and then sprinkled with a few good picks in there.
The last team in the North. This is what they got, and I think this is a much better draft than what we just talked about. In the first, they get Darnell Wright, offensive tackle. 2nd round, they get Jervon Dexter Sr., defensive tackle. They also get Tyreek Stevenson, cornerback. In the 3rd, they get Zach Pickens, defensive tackle. In the 4th, they get Roshan Johnson, running back. Tyler Scott, wide receiver. In the 5th, they get Noah Sewell, linebacker. They get Terrell Smith, cornerback. And then in the 7th, they get Travis Bell, defensive tackle. Kendall Williamson, defensive back. JD, this is another one that, like, I'm torn on a grade. I look at it though, and like, I'm going to say A- for the Bears. And the reason why is I look at yes, it was one of those to where, like, I love the Darnell Wright pick. but like all the guys, like this was a complete draft of like like this is what the Lions fans are trying to take their draft and dress it up like it's the Bears draft. That's what I think. This is one to where it's like the Bears hit almost every need that they needed right where it needed to be. Almost every guy on this list is like, oh, I like that guy. Ooh, and that's right where he should have been taken. Maybe a little higher, but like there were no major reaches here from the Bears, and they hit a lot of what they needed to. So like to me, that's why it's a great comparison. That's why the Lions B+, good draft, but you reached on a lot. Bears A-. You got what you needed to do, and this used to be a team that had the number 1 pick. They traded down to 9. They traded down to 10. They do the rest of what they do at the draft. I like Dexter out of Florida. I like Stevenson, Pickens, like even getting Sewell in the 5th. He's a guy that I think could have gone a lot higher. I look at these guys and I go, you got a lot of guys that can help this team. Now it's just there's just one thing that needs to the last thing that needs to fit in. Justin Fields, what are you going to do? I have given you help. I have given you some wide receivers. I've given you the biggest thing is I need offensive tackle help. They got that in the 1st. I love the draft from the Bears. I think Bears fans should be ecstatic. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna say this. Yeah, they get one of my few A+.
Okay.
I mean, and now I want to chime in. Now, how you said like how unlike the Lions, how they didn't really reach too much. They got their guy.
In my opinion.
Yeah. Now, for me, I think I was listening. I don't remember where I heard it, but some people were talking about it. I think it was easier for these teams with the lower picks, like to get their guys in the later rounds, because with how weak this class was, you had guys who were like, oh, well, we're drafting at the end of the 4th round here. This guy who we have a 5th round grade on, he might not be here at the end of the 5th round. Let's just take him now. So that's
you're
why,
saying get like teams that had a lot of like multiple picks.
Yeah, or but just like lower as well. Like if you had the 2nd pick in the 4th round, okay, well you're more likely to get a guy with a better like a 3rd to 4th round grade than the team with later. But yeah, I think they get an A+ for me. I love Darnell Wright. Again, he was my favorite tackle this year. Now, the only thing that was going against him was that he's solely a right tackle.
Yeah.
Gervon Dexter, I was actually talking to Sam from the Discord a little bit about this because he sent me an article and just asking that if they got a good player. With Gervon Dexter, that's just solely you're hoping for potential because he didn't produce as much at Florida, but I think part of the problem was he was the only guy in that D line who was really doing anything. So he was dealing with all the double teams and nobody else was really doing anything. So at worst, I think he has a high floor because of his size. He's an absolute mountain of a man. I think at worst, he's going to just eat up blocks. But I can see him being an elite pass rusher.
Yeah.
Then Roschon Johnson, I absolutely love. He didn't get as much hype because Bijan was the lead back, but Roschon Johnson could have led. If Bijan was never on the Longhorns, Roschon Johnson, they would have been completely fine with them. I think he's going to be a very good starter in the league. Great pass blocker. He's just a strong runner, hard to take down. Tyler Scott, I loved him out of Cincinnati. I great value. Getting him in the 4th round is crazy. I thought he'd be an early 3rd rounder, so I love that. Noah Sewell was once, I don't know if you remember this, but he was once thought of as the best linebacker in the class, a solid 1st rounder.
And now he gets to play his brother twice a year.
Yep. Yeah, so obviously didn't have a great season and there's reasons why he fell, but for somebody who was once thought of as a 1st rounder, there's clearly upside there. He wasn't just placed there for no reason, right?
Yeah.
And then Terrell Smith, the corner from Minnesota, was again somebody else. Small, like still a Big Ten school, but not the best school. And I think he was a good starter. He's a good tackler. Yeah, I think I want to say he's a little slower than you would like,
Yeah.
but he has good positioning, he has good hip movement. He's good at mirroring the receiver. So, if anything, a depth corner that doesn't hurt in the fifth round. I absolutely love. I think they knocked it out of the park. And who are these? Who are these Chicago Bears? I swear, everybody and myself included, we always used to trash these guys for not knowing how to draft. And this year and last year, they had some pretty good drafts. So, I mean, I give them props for that.
Yeah, I mean, I just, yet again, I look at it and I'm really happy at what the Bears did. And I feel like a lot of the guys they got, yeah, maybe it's because some of them fell to them and it made it easier. But like, I look at it and I just go, if I was a Bears fan, I would be really excited for this team next year. Moving on halfway through the NFC, we got the South now. The Buccaneers in the first round get Kalijah Kancey, defensive tackle. Second round, they get Cody Mock, offensive tackle. Third round, they get Yaya Daibi, defensive end. In the fifth, they get Cervecchi, Dennis, linebacker. They also get Payne Durham. In the sixth round, they get Josh Haynes, Trey Palmer, Jose Ramirez, defensive back, wide receiver, and then edge. JD, this is the South. We switch back off. You're first. What are you thinking for the Bucs?
So, I've gushed about Kalijah Kancey enough, so I don't really need to go into that. I love the pick.
You
I love the pick.
Say.
Yeah, love my favorite player in the draft. Love it. Love the pick.
Mm-hmm.
Now Cody Mock was somebody who I was starting to talk about. I might have even have a DM with you about him from about, I want to say, October.
Yeah.
Now, again, went to a small school in North Dakota State. I think he's more of a guard at the next level, but I mean, if you're putting him at guard, he's a fantastic size. He's, again, great. I think he's a better pass blocker than run blocker, but I think that's just a great piece because they hit a need. They need an offensive line. I also like the Josh Hayes, the corner from Kansas State. I mean, solid pick. He's a good cover corner. Has good speed. Just like what you want in a prototypical corner. And yeah, like I overall I think the Bucs, they did above average. Like I'd give them a solid B-, honestly. Like they hit their needs. They didn't overreach. And I mean, yeah, I think that's all that really needs to be said.
Yeah, this was a hard one where like really besides the top two, like you look at this team and the biggest needs that they had coming in were tackle and edge. Like I remember in the first round, it's like, oh, they could have gone tackle, they could go edge, they could go cornerback, they could go quarterback, they could go safety. And like when I look at their draft, like edge rushing, I guess like, yeah, they got it in the sixth. I would have preferred them to hit it sooner since that's a top need of theirs. But like Kalijah Kancey is a good pick. Cody Mock is a great pick, hits a need. I'm going to say B-, and it's solely because of those top two, to where it's like without the first two picks, this draft class for them would be vastly different. Like I'm not in love. And when I say not in love, it's not like, oh, Ricky hates the rest of their draft. I just really don't know what to expect from the rest of their class right now. I just know I really like those first two, and I know that Cody Mock can help them right away. I know that Kancey can help them right away, to where they're at too. The Bucs are in a transitional period. You just got rid of Tom Brady. Baker Mayfield's your quarterback. How good are you going to be this year? Like, could they have targeted different guys later on? Of course. But like, I feel like because they nailed those top two picks, I'm going to give it a B-, kind of fringe B-, C+, with those top two guys really riding everything home for them. Then looking in the next team, the Carolina Panthers, Yeah, the number one pick. We're talking about them because they traded up. In the first round, obviously, they get Bryce Young 1 overall. Then they get Jonathan Mingo in the second. They get DJ Johnson, edge rusher, in the third. They get Chandler Zavala, guard, in the fourth. They get Jamie Robinson, safety, in the fifth. What's your thought? Clean 5-pick draft class for the Panthers.
Man, I don't love it, honestly. Like,
Okay.
I think it. I'm giving it a C plus because they got Bryce Young,
Mm-hmm.
and now obviously that's just a chalkboard pick. So like, is it really that impressive? And
Mm-hmm.
but what goes into it is, I know like they made trades and whatnot, so that's why they only had the 5 picks.
Yeah.
But they need to get more talent, and so by not trying to maybe even trade back your second rounder, especially because you took Jonathan Mingo,
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't have him as a second rounder. He wasn't the best receiver on the board when he was picked.
Yeah.
So if you really love Jonathan Mingo, you could have traded back, got more picks, and filled out your class that way. Because honestly, the only 2 picks I liked was Bryce Young and Chandler Zavala.
Mm-hmm.
I think Zavala could come in and actually start right away at guard. I think he has that capability, which is something that they need.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I mean, DJ Johnson, I guess can be a rotational guy right off the bat. Maybe. And I mean, like I said, Jonathan Mingo, like I don't think he was worthy of the second round pick, and
Mm-hmm.
there are just better guys on the board. But because you obviously made the right choice at number 1, and you got I think a steal in the 4th round with Zavala, I mean that's good enough to give you a C plus.
I'm gonna agree on the C plus, mainly because if I'm putting myself in the idea of a Panther fan right now, I'm looking at this going, do I personally think Bryce Young was the best quarterback from this draft class? No, but I do not think it was a bad pick. So you didn't mess up the number 1 pick. Jonathan Mingo, I wouldn't have gone with. I'll tell you one guy who probably should have went before Jonathan Mingo. Can you guess who I'm going to say, JD? Jalen Hyatt. And like that's to me where it's like, regardless of that, I'm going to give them a C plus because I look at it and I go, okay, you got your quarterback, you got your what you think will be the wide receiver of the future. You at least didn't mess that up. Would I have gone someone different than Mingo? No, but I personally like the upside of Mingo. I just didn't have him as high as some people did. The other 3 are just, hey, we're going to have to wait and see. I like Zavala, but we're just going to have to wait and see what they become. C plus mainly because you didn't mess up those first 2 picks. Like that's it. You just didn't mess up the first 2. The Saints, they go ahead in the first round. They get Brian Breezy out of Breezy, however you say it, Breeze, whatever. However you say it, Breezes, Breezy. It ain't easy being Breezy. Defensive tackle. Is it weird that they went from a quarterback Drew Brees to now Brian Breezy?
When you were saying that, I was like, man, it clicked in my head.
Is it Breezy, like Breezes?
I think it's Breezes.
Breezes even. You got Brian Breezes in the first round. You get Isaiah Foskey in the second round. You get Kendre Miller, running back, in the third. They get Nick Saldiveri, guard, in the fourth. They also get Jack Hayner in the fourth as well, quarterback out of Fresno State. Jordan Howden in the fifth, safety, and then A.T. Perry, wide receiver, in the sixth. Go ahead, JD. You're taking the South first. Let me know what you think about the Saints.
I actually really like their draft, which is a change of pace. I know Jake will tell you he's used to disappointment when it comes to the Saints draft, but I think they did a very nice job here, especially their top 3 picks, or even their top 4 picks. Now, Brian Breezes, he, again, like we all know, he has the injury history, so it's risky. Now, my only complaint is because the Saints are such an injury-prone team, is it smart taking an injury-prone player? Because that's just the reality. I hope that he can change that, and he ends up being healthy for his entire career. And if he is healthy, absolute steal at 28. Absolute steal. I have a few friends and family who are Saints fans. I told them the same thing. Steal. Now, again, like we talked about the players who could sneak into the first round for our personal favorites before the draft, they take Isaiah Foskey. Absolutely love that pick.
I was going to say, you loved him when he was a first round pick.
Yeah. I love him when he was a first round pick. He again, he's very raw, but he has the length, he has the bend, he has the production. I mean, I think he'll do wonders on that Saints D line, and learning from a guy like Cameron Jordan. I think that's a perfect fit.
Yeah.
Kendre Miller is somebody who, again, one of my draft crushes. I think the guy's fantastic. He's great at reading his blocks. He makes guys miss. He's a slippery runner. I think getting him in the third round is great, especially because Alvin Kamara's not always, but he's injured quite a bit, or he's suspended or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Nick Salveri, Nick Salveri, the tackle from Old Dominion.
It's Saldiveri.
Saldiveri.
Yeah, Saldiveri.
Yeah. I think getting him in the fourth round is fine value. So I've seen some people have him as a third rounder. Some people had him as late as a fifth rounder.
Yeah.
So you get him in the middle there. And again, you need help on that offensive line because of injuries. I think if at worst case, again, like I was saying earlier, he can be a swing tackle or just a quality backup. But I think if you put him in to start games, he'll give you quality starts.
Yeah.
I love what they did. I think they got good value for where they were picking, and for a team that didn't have their own first round pick. I mean, I don't hate taking a chance on a guy who could have, without the injuries, could have been a top 10 pick.
Yeah. I'm gonna go B+. Like, and the only reason I'm not going A- or anywhere in the A's is none of the guys they drafted are like, so like with the Bears, because I've only given 2 A's. With the Bears, I really like Darnell Wright. I think he's going to be a great pick for them. With the Eagles, Jalen Carter obviously makes it easy, but I also really love Nolan Smith. So that's another reason like why those are A's. Brian Brzee to me, it's a good pick, but it's like I personally wasn't in love with him. It's a solid draft though overall because they hit needs that they needed. And also the one thing that I really love is their running back. I love Kendre Miller. Loved him when he was at TCU. Like the TCU team, I really wanted them to win in the college football playoff. I just knew they weren't going to because, you know, like Michigan was Michigan, but like they weren't going to beat Georgia. That team was never going to beat the Georgia Bulldogs. But I love what Miller can be behind Alvin Kamara when he comes back, because I believe he's got a suspension to serve. But like I was telling Jake that I feel like Miller can serve the role that like Mark Ingram served behind Alvin Kamara, where it's like be that change of pace, be more of that power runner up the middle compared to pass catcher on the outside, swinging it out, being the speed guy. But like they hit their 2 biggest needs with their first 2 picks. They got quality through the rest of the draft. Like Saints fans, you should be happy with this draft. It's solid B+ if you're a Saints fan. Then to close out the South, JD, the Falcons. You got Bijan Robinson in the first round. They get Matthew Bergeron, offensive tackle, in the second. Zach Harrison, edge rusher, in the third. Clark Phillips, the third, cornerback, in the fourth. And then DeMarco Helms, safety, and Javon Gwynn, guard, in the 7th round. What's your thoughts and grades for the Atlanta Falcons? The Dirty Birds, if we're going back to the 90s. The Dirty Birds.
Now, do you remember what you said once they drafted Bijan?
How
even though they drafted Bijan, he's not a guy who will make or break your class.
He makes or breaks the class.
What like you said, how they have to still fill it out. Like with the Texans, they can get an A+ with their first 2 picks.
Yeah, good point.
Now,
good point.
Now, I think they did that. I think they, like, for someone who took a running back in the top 10, I think they did fantastic. I'm giving them an A-. They, after Bijan, they got Matthew Bergeron, who is fantastic. I wouldn't say fantastic. He's a good tackle from Syracuse. He gives them the ability. Like, I think he'll start right away for them because their offensive line is pretty weak, and it might be a rough season because he is raw. But moving forward, I think he's a guy who will develop super nicely. He has the size. He has the footwork. The only thing is his hand placements, I noticed, aren't great. Like, whenever he's going for blocks, I think guys rip at them way too easily. And then Zach Harrison was, I thought he was a second rounder, and getting him mid-third, good value. I'm going to
cut you off for a second because you just mentioned a name. I'm giving them an A, solid A, because of what you just said. Zach Harrison.
Yeah.
Because second round pick, get him in the third, makes me forget that you passed on Tyree Wilson. Now I can be like, oh, you got him in the third? All right, it's good that you took Bijan in the first.
Yeah, exactly. They did what they needed to afterwards. They covered their tracks. And then getting Clark Phillips in the 4th round. Yeah. I know people are afraid.
Second round, maybe even first round. Well, second round dude, I'll say.
Yeah, he for a while he was a first rounder from a lot of people, but I think we settled. I mean, I thought he would be gone in the second round.
Yeah. And
getting him in the 4th, I think he's going to be a quality starter for them. I think he has potential to be a top 15 corner in the league if everything goes right. Now, like we've been saying with a lot of these prospects, it seems like if you looked at the year before's tape, I think he would have been a first rounder for sure. Last year's, he still had a good season, but not as good as he did in years past.
Yeah.
So, but again, if you burn last year's tape, then fantastic. If that's the player you get. So I think then they had 2 7th rounders, which is just a roll of the dice. So for that, I give them a solid A.
Yeah.
I mean, I like what they did.
They've
had a good offseason just altogether, honestly.
I can't wait to see what the Falcons turn around. The thing that I'm most excited about is that they're going to give Desmond Ridder free reign. Just be the guy this year. See what you can do. I was so worried that they were going to take like an AR or something and mess with that. I was worried that they were going to do what the Titans did. And they didn't at all. Moving on, though, we've got to finish out the NFC, we've got 4 more teams. The San Francisco 49ers, this one, JD, I know I'm going first. Coming up with a grade for this one is hard because they get 3 third-round picks. They get Jair Brown, safety, Jake Moody, kicker, Cameron Latou, tight end. Then in the 5th round, they get Darrell Luther Jr. and Robert Beal Jr., cornerback and edge. In the 6th, they get D. Winters, linebacker. And then in the 7th, Braden Willis, Ronnie Ball, Jalen Graham, tight end, wide receiver, linebacker. Like, it's hard for a team that, like, I know why they made the trades that they did in order to give away those first 2 picks, but, like, I look at this team and it's like, okay, you needed defensive back, whether that's corner, safety, you needed interior offensive line, and you needed wide receiver. And I look at it and I go, I like this is a team that reaching might not hold it against you because you don't have those first 2 picks to do anything with. So, like, Jair Brown might have been a little bit of a reach, but you go ahead and you get him in the 3rd. That's fine. And by reach, I mean like maybe a 4th round pick, but solid area where you got him. It's not like you took a 2nd round player or a 3rd round player in the 1st round. The rest of their draft, though, like, none of the guys jump off the page. Did they need to take kicker as early as they did when he was the first kicker off the board at 36? I mean, for me, I look at it and I go, I'm just going to go with a D. And it's not because of like, oh man, they screwed up here, they screwed up there. Like, I just look at it and I go, you didn't get anybody in my mind except for maybe Jair Brown that is really going to help this team right away. But really, when you're the San Francisco 49ers and you're a playoff team, doesn't matter. So like, should it be a C? Should it be a D? I'm going to go on the other end and just say nothing jumps off the page. It's a D, but if you're a 49er fan, I don't think you're worried with what the grade of this draft is.
Yeah. Now I'm giving them a C- because what I think they did here is kind of what they actually needed to do.
Okay.
Now, I think they needed a bunch of depth, and I think that's what they got.
Good point.
I think that's what they got in this draft. Like getting Cameron Latu in the third, probably a bit of a reach, but again, with how fast the tight ends were going off the board, I mean, if he was your guy, you got him, okay. And based off the rest of their draft, it didn't look like they had the same grades as most people. But yeah, so taking a kicker in the third round with your second pick, I think that's a little weird, but I'm not going to hate on taking a kicker because it clearly it's been working for a lot of teams. Now, Darrell Lutter Jr., the corner from South Alabama, I think is probably my favorite pick from them.
Okay.
I think he's criminally underrated. It's just one of those facts of being at a small school, so he didn't get the hype that he could have if he went to a bigger school.
Yeah.
So I think he comes in as their fourth corner right away, and he'll after a couple years, or he'll be able to be one of their starters. So I think that's a good pick. Yeah, I just think they did what they needed to do. They got a bunch of depth guys, rotational pieces, guys who could play special teams, and I think that's what kind of haunted them down the stretch. They didn't have enough depth to make up for the injuries that they had.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like I said, a team like this, it's kind of hard to give them a draft grade because, like, you got to look where the team is, how many picks that they had, like, everything you said. Maybe I'm taking it too harshly and I should put it up to a C, but like, for me, it's hard to grade classes like this one because it's like, well, really, what was really there for them? And were they just saying, hey, you know what? We are who we are. We're just going to go ahead and take some reaches because we got to make sure we fill these holes and get the exact depth that we need.
Yeah, and like I said, that's the only reason why I'm giving them a C. If I took that part away where, okay, we're looking at this like any other draft class, trying to get the best guys to be starters for your team, then yes, it's probably a D-. But the fact that
I'm going to change. I'm going to join with you, C-. I was a little bit too harsh on it. I'm changing it. I have the right to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, I mean,
you talked me into it, JD.
I get why you'd have a lower value on it. 'Cause on paper, it's not a pretty draft.
Yeah.
But they did exactly what they intended to do, and they hit positions of need. I mean, so in that case, it's a little below average, but I can't hate it.
Yeah. Moving on, last four teams of the NFC. We start with the Seahawks. No, we just did it. We got three more left. I'm already going blank on what we're doing. We got the Seahawks here in the first round. They get Devon Witherspoon, cornerback. They get JSN, wide receiver. Second round, they get Derek Hall and Zach Charbonnet, edge rusher, running back. Then in the fourth round, they get Anthony Bradford, guard. They get Cameron Young, DT. In the fifth, they get Mike Morris, defensive end. They get Ola Watimi, center out of Michigan. Sixth round, Jarek Reed, the third safety. Kenny McIntosh in the seventh, running back. JD, this is another one. This is my rare grade so far. Solid A+. And the reason why, Devon Witherspoon is a solid pick. At number 5, you get the best corner. Was corner the biggest need for them? No. They probably could have gone with Jalen Carter, but we know the off the field issues. They probably were afraid of that. So you get the best corner, and you also get JSN at, what was that, 20? You get him at 20. Derek Hall, like, yet again, this one was kind of like the Falcon one. What were they going to do after that first round? Because they didn't go edge rusher or D-line in that first round, they get Derek Hall in the second, who I really like, who I think is going to be solid for them. They get Cameron Young in the fourth, another guy that I really like. And then besides JSN, they need running backs. Well, guess what? We're going to take, to me, in my personal rankings, the second ranked running back in this class in Zach Charbonnet. And then they're going to take a running back who I think is criminally underrated, who I think can fill in as like a third running back to kind of be that kind of speedster little back, is Kenny McIntosh. Like, to me, I look at the McIntosh, Charbonnet, Hall, Young, getting JSN, taking Witherspoon. This is an A+ draft. The Seahawks did amazingly. It wasn't as cookie cutter as like, here's a need, but they filled in probably some of the best talent from this draft.
Yeah, I love what they did as well. Devon Witherspoon, he was my number 2 corner, and I thought he was a top 10 talent. So getting him at 5 is good value. Jackson Smith-Njigba, he, again, my number 1 receiver. Getting him at 20 as the first receiver off the board he was the first one, right? Off the board?
No, he was not. Quentin Johnson was it? No, Quentin Johnson went right after. You're right. Yeah, JSN was.
Yeah, so getting him as the first receiver off the board, I think he'll complement that offense really well with DK Metcalf. Derek Hall, like you said, I really like him. Getting him in the second round, fantastic value. Zach Charbonnet is somebody who I really loved. He was my third running back, but I mean, getting him as the third running back in the class, good value, especially in the second round. And then Anthony Bradford was someone who I think is he has flexibility to play all the interior positions on the O-line. I think he could play center, he could play guard, and he can at like both guard positions. So I like that pick in the fourth round. And then getting Cameron Young as well in the fourth round. I thought he would be gone early to mid third. So getting him in the fourth, I really like. And yeah, then at the end they got like Jarek Reed, who I think is just a pretty good special teamer. And then Kenny McIntosh, I thought would be gone in the sixth round. So he has a nose for the goal line, or the end zone, I should say. So getting him to be able to punch in touchdowns and just as another change of pace guy, I mean, I love it. I give it a solid A.
So moving on, last two of the NFC, we got the Rams. They get no first round pick, but in the second they get Steve Avila, guard out of TCU. Third, they go Byron Young, edge rusher, along with Kobe Turner, defensive tackle. Fourth round, they go Stenson Bennett, quarterback from Georgia. Fifth round, they get a plethora of picks. Nick Hampton, edge rusher. Warren McClendon Jr., offensive tackle. Davis Allen, tight end. Puka Nacua, wide receiver, BYU. In the sixth, they go with Travius Hodges Tomlinson, cornerback. They go with Aquan Mathis, edge rusher, along with Zach Evans, running back. Then they go Ethan Evans, Jason Taylor, Dashwan Johnson, punter, safety, defensive end in the seventh round. This is going to be weird to hear, JD. I'm giving him a solid B. The reason why I like Steve Avila, I like Kobe Turner, Stenson Bennett, I love this situation for him. Do I think he's going to pan out? I don't know. We'll see. But I love the situation for him because Matthew Stafford knows what he is. He knows that he's done. There were talks before this season that Matthew Stafford was going to retire. Matthew Stafford, ex-Georgia Bulldog, this is something, this is like a pure, you are the mentor to Stetson Bennett. He might play, and Stafford is just the mentor to him and hopefully wants to see a Georgia Bulldog be successful. I also love the pick of Zach Evans. Loved what he did at Ole Miss. He's got potential. They're definitely a team that needs running back because there were rumors that like, hey, the running backs want to be traded. I'm trying to think yet again. Let me check before I throw out the exact name if they're still there because free agency did happen. I want to make sure this person is still on the roster. Come on, Spot Rack. Come on, load the Rams depth chart. Doesn't matter. I like Evans. I like Avila. I like Bennett. This is one where it's like, I know they didn't have a first round pick, JD, but it's a B. They got some solid players. And the Rams they got their Super Bowl championship. They might be going through a little bit of a retool right now. Let's see if Stetson Bennett can be the guy for them.
Yeah, for not having a first round pick, I like what they did. Steve Avila in the second round.
Cam Akers is still there. Akers is the one that wanted to trade.
Yeah. So I like getting Steve Avila in the second round. I think that you need offensive line help. So he does that for you. Getting Stetson Bennett, like you said, I don't think he's very good, but you needed a quarterback to be on roster and potentially start games, and I think Stetson Bennett can be all right for you. I absolutely love the Trevius Hodges Tomlinson pick. I think he's somebody I wanted the Bengals to take in the second or third round.
Yeah.
So getting him in the sixth, I mean, clearly there's a reason he fell, but getting him, I think he's going to be an absolute baller for them. Especially now that Jalen Ramsey's off the team. Like he's going to be able to play and not have to worry about messing up because the Rams aren't going to be very good this year. They'll just let him play, like learn the game and improve.
Yeah.
And then getting Zach Evans, like you said, I think that's a fantastic value in the sixth round. You needed running back depth, and I think he can be your future starter after this season. And yeah, I mean, overall, for not having a first round pick. Oh, sorry, and I also like the Dennis Allen pick, the Clemson tight end. You needed tight end depth. Dennis Allen's a very raw player. I want to say he's a better blocker than he is receiver, but if you can develop him as a receiver and his route tree, then I mean that's a steal, fifth round. So I like what they did. So yeah, I'm giving them a solid B as well.
And then the last team that we're looking at is, by the way, I'm going to say this now, we're calling it audible probably. JD and I did not realize that this was going to go this long for the entire NFC. So count this as like part A. We'll have part B probably come out tomorrow, which will be the AFC teams. But let's close it out, JD. The Arizona Cardinals, first round, they get Paris Johnson Jr., offensive tackle. Then in the second, BJ Ojulari, edge rusher. In the third, they get Garrett Williams, cornerback, Michael Wilson, wide receiver. They then get John Gaines II, guard in the fourth. In the fifth, they get Clayton Tune, quarterback, and Owen Papo, linebacker. And in the sixth, they get Kytre Clark, cornerback, and Dante Stills, defensive tackle. This is one that I remember judging their first pick kind of harshly. And this is a prime reason why sometimes a full draft kind of like, here's the thing. The Paris Johnson pick doesn't look as bad as I thought it did post night one because they got BJ Ojulari. Like, that is something that this team, I still feel needs to go full rebuild. Kyler Murray's not the guy. Bosa was right. You should have drafted him. But like, I look at this, I like Garrett Wilson. I like BJ Ojulari. I like what they did. Like, if you look at the guys they got in their first three picks, quality, quality, quality. You can't be mad at that. That's why for me, like, I'm going to go with a B, I think is what I'm going to solidify here. They got good talent at the top. We'll see if their talent at the bottom pans out. But like, I can give up and forgive not taking Tyree Wilson because you went ahead and go with BJ Ojulari later in the draft. I will say B for the Cardinals, despite how hard I went against you guys in our first round reactions.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with a solid C. I think it was average.
Mm-hmm.
I think I liked the Paris Johnson move a little more than you did when we
You did.
reacted.
You did.
Yeah. Yeah, so I like that. They got a need. They, in their mind, best offensive tackle in the draft. I love the BJ Ojulari pick. I think he, again, like you said, if you want them to go edge in the first, he makes up for them not going edge. So I like that better. And then getting Garrett Williams in the third, really good. He has, I think he'll be a starting corner for them. I think he'll be a good corner for them.
Yeah.
He's your idea. He's what you want in a corner. And then after that, I mean, that's kind of where the draft is. Like getting Clayton Tune. Yeah, like getting Clayton Tune. I mean, I actually like it because you can't rely on Kyler to stay healthy. Plus, now he's going to be missing the first bit of the season. So hopefully Clayton Tune can get the playbook under his belt.
Well, and also he's just a bad quarterback.
I mean, I don't know.
I am going to become a real hard Kyler Murray hater soon if I'm not there already.
I don't love Kyler, but I don't hate him. So
it's not even like I hate him. It's just that I don't think he's a good quarterback.
Yeah, so getting Clayton Tune, I mean, he had a good season for Houston. He had a good career at Houston. I like him as a mid-round pick. And I mean, yeah, like the rest, I'm not too familiar, honestly, with the back end of their draft, but they based off the positions they got needs. I mean, they could be all just depth, but nothing wrong with getting depth at the back end of the draft.
Yeah, and I will say a lot of these in the NFC, and maybe this is true for when we do the NFC tomorrow, is basically not a lot of these, like, maybe it's because this whole draft we had talked about it being a bunch of mid, that it's like, besides for a couple players and maybe like this one draft, two drafts, a lot of it is just like, all right, it's a C. All right, it's a B. There's your occasional, like I said, I think I gave out 3 A's for the NFC, but like there weren't any F's. I think the lowest that I gave out, or you gave out, were a D. I think we both gave out like what, 1 D, 2 D's? I think mine were 2 D's, and then I went with the Usos 1 D. Yeah. Got to throw that in. Got to throw that in there. Got to go with the 1 D. But any final thoughts, JD, before we wrap up the NFC portion of our draft grades?
Just based off of what we talked about, I think honestly every A or NFC team, I mean, like you said, none of them really had an awful draft. I think it's just a little of what we expected. Like, this draft isn't super deep. So a lot of them, like, they just did what they needed to do. They filled out their roster. They did the best things that they could. And I didn't hate any of the drafts so far. So yeah, good for them.
So that's going to do it for our NFC side of it. We're going to stop this episode here. We'll have a 7th episode with the AFC teams, only because this is kind of, we've gone a little far into the weeds. I'll be honest, JD, after we did the first division, I looked at the time and I went, yeah, we're going to probably need 2 parts for this. This is not going to be an entire NFL in
a 3-hour show.
We've done it before, but I mean, I know bite size is probably more to go. So we'll go like 1.5 hour bite size episodes. But here's the NFC. Let us know what you guys think down below. Where do you agree? Where do you disagree? Do you all agree? Do you all disagree? Let us know down below. Remember, if you want to support us, go ahead and check out our Patreon link down below in the description. And if you want to go ahead and support us, Patreon, but if you want to join that Discord and get in the conversation with the real MVPs, that is in the description as well. For myself and JD, I want to thank you guys for watching and listening. And as always, have a good day, everybody. As always, we'd like to thank the people who make these videos possible, our patrons whose names are displayed on the screen. If you would like to support MVP, go ahead and click that Patreon link in the right. And if you'd like to check out our first round reactions, go ahead and click the video in the upper left. As always, thanks for watching.